Admiral Kang Daeho stood in front of the massive doors that led to the Galactic Council chamber. His dark blue uniform was neat and clean, with small Earth symbols on his shoulders. He had been Earth's main diplomat for 20 years now. In all that time, he had never raised his voice or lost his temper with the alien leaders. Today would be no different, even though his heart was heavy with worry. The doors opened with a soft hiss. The chamber was huge, bigger than any building on Earth. 3 different groups of aliens sat in their special areas. Each group looked down at the center where humans had to stand and ask for help. This was how it had always been for 50 years. Daeho walked to the center slowly. His assistant, Ambassador Park So-min, followed behind him. She carried a small device that would record everything said in the meeting. Her face showed no emotion, but inside she felt angry about how the aliens always treated humans like children. The first group was the Veltar Empire. They were tall and strong with gray skin and red eyes. Their leader, General Grexoth, sat in a chair made of dark metal. His people loved war and fighting. They had taken over hundreds of worlds by force. When they looked at humans, they saw weak creatures who were afraid to fight. The second group was the Kith Collective. They had pale blue skin and large heads filled with computer chips. Their leader, Tekarch Zilos, never moved from his floating chair. His people thought they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. They made machines that could think and weapons that could destroy planets. When they looked at humans, they saw simple minds that could barely understand basic science. The third group was the Morden. They were very old and thin with white skin that seemed to glow. Their leader had no name that humans could say, so they called him Elder. His people could read minds and control thoughts. They had been alive for thousands of years. When they looked at humans, they saw new minds that were easy to control. Honored Council, Daeho began, his voice calm and respectful. I come before you today with an urgent request from the people of Earth. General Grexoth made a sound like a laugh, but not a happy one. Another request? What do the humans want now? More food, more protection, more help with their simple problems? Daeho did not show any anger, even though the general's words were meant to hurt. A large asteroid is heading toward our solar system. Our scientists say it will hit Earth in 3 months. We ask for your help to stop it or move it away from our world. The 3 leaders looked at each other. Then Tekarch Zilos spoke in his cold electronic voice. Your primitive science cannot handle a simple space rock? How disappointing. Perhaps you should have spent more time learning instead of asking others for help. We have tried everything we know, Daeho said, but this asteroid is very large. It would destroy most life on our planet. We have nowhere else to go. The elder of the Morden spoke without moving his thin lips. His words appeared directly in everyone's minds. The weak must learn to be strong or they must accept their fate. This is the way of the universe. So-min felt her hands shake with anger, but she kept recording. She had seen this same scene many times before. The aliens would listen to human requests, then say no while acting like they were teaching humans an important lesson. General Grexoth stood up from his metal chair. His red eyes looked at Daeho like he was a small insect. For 50 years, your people have come here asking for help. You ask for better trade deals when pirates steal your ships. You ask for medicine when diseases spread on your world. You ask for protection when space storms threaten your colonies. Always asking, never taking what you need by force. We believe in peace and working together, Daeho replied. We hoped that showing respect and kindness would help us build good relationships with all the peoples of the galaxy. Respect? Tekarch Zilos made a sound like static electricity. You show weakness. In this galaxy, the strong take what they need, and the weak serve the strong. This has always been true. Your philosophy is interesting, the elder said into their minds. But it does not change reality. The asteroid will hit your world. Many of your people will die. This is natural selection working as it should. Daeho took a deep breath. He had known this would happen, but he had to try one more time. Is there nothing we can offer in return for your help? Our people are willing to work hard and share what we have. All three alien leaders made sounds of amusement. General Grexoth spoke first. What could primitives like you possibly offer to civilizations like ours? Your weapons are toys compared to ours. Your ships move like slow insects through space. Your computers cannot even think for themselves. However, Techarch Xylos added, we are not completely without mercy. After the asteroid hits your world, we will send ships to collect the survivors. You can work in our mining colonies on distant worlds. It is more than your species deserves. How generous, the elder agreed. Instead of letting you all die, we offer you the chance to serve those greater than yourselves. You should be grateful for this kindness. Somin wanted to speak, to tell these aliens what she really thought of their kindness. But she stayed, quiet, and kept recording. This conversation would be very important later. Deho bowed his head slightly. I see. The council has made its decision. Before I leave, I would like to thank you for this educational experience. Earth will remember your wisdom. Something in his voice made Somin look at him more carefully. He sounded the same as always. Polite, calm, respectful. But there was something different about the way he said, remember. It sounded like he was making a promise instead of just being polite. Good, General Grexoth said, sitting back down. Perhaps your people will finally learn their place in the galaxy. The strong rule, and the weak obey. This is the only truth that matters. As Deho and Somin turned to leave, none of the aliens noticed the small smile that crossed the Admiral's face for just a moment. They also did not notice Somin tap a special button on her recording device. This sent a secret signal to a ship, waiting far away from the council station. Captain Li Taewu received the signal on his ship, the Harmony. To anyone who looked at it, the Harmony seemed like a simple research vessel. It was white and clean, with equipment for studying space and planets. It looked peaceful and harmless, just like Earth wanted it to look. But Taewu knew the truth. The Harmony was one of the most dangerous ships ever built. Its weapons could crack a moon in half. Its shields could stop anything the aliens could throw at it. Its computers were so advanced that they could take control of entire alien fleets without anyone knowing. Signal received, Captain, his communications officer reported. The Admiral confirms the Council has refused our request. Taewu nodded slowly. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Send the message home. Tell them the Council has chosen to let Earth face the asteroid alone. Yes, sir. And the other message? Send that too. Taewu said quietly. Tell them it's time to stop being polite. Back on the Council station, Deho and Somin walked through the long hallways toward their small ship. Other aliens moved past them without looking. To most beings in the galaxy, humans were not important enough to notice. Admiral, Somin said quietly, they really mean to let billions of our people die. Yes, Deho replied. And then they want to make slaves of whoever survives. They think this makes them generous and wise. How can they be so cruel? Deho stopped walking and looked out a large window at the stars. They are not cruel, Somin. They simply do not see us as equals. To them we are animals that learn to talk. When animals die, it is sad but natural. When animals work for their masters, it is the proper order of things. But we are not animals. No, Deho said, and Somin heard that strange tone in his voice again. We are not animals at all, and very soon they are going to learn exactly what we really are. They reached their ship and prepared to leave the Council station. As they flew away into the dark space between stars, none of the aliens watching them go had any idea that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The asteroid continued its path toward Earth, but Earth was not afraid. Earth was getting ready to teach the galaxy a lesson about the difference between being polite and being weak. 3 weeks after the Galactic Council meeting, aliens across the galaxy watched their screens in shock. The massive asteroid heading for Earth had simply vanished. Long-range sensors showed it breaking apart into tiny pieces that sparkled like stars before disappearing completely. General Grexoth stood in his command center on the Veltar homeworld, staring at the readings his scientists brought him. "This is impossible," he growled. That rock was bigger than a moon. Nothing in the human fleet could destroy something that large. His chief scientist, a smaller Veltar with nervous eyes, held up his data pad with shaking hands. "Sir, we detected energy signatures during the destruction, but they don't match anything in our databases. The weapons used were completely unknown to us." Far away, on the Keith Collective's main world, Techarch Zillos processed the same information through his electronic brain. His calculations ran thousands of times, but they all gave the same result. The humans had used technology that was hundreds of years ahead of anything the Kith had ever imagined. "Run the analysis again," he ordered his assistant computers. "There must be an error." "Analysis complete. No errors detected," the machines replied in their flat voices. "The technology demonstrated exceeds our current understanding by significant margins." On the ancient Morden world, the elder sat in his crystal chair and reached out with his mind to touch the thoughts of humans on distant Earth. What he found made him pull back in surprise and fear. The human minds were not the simple, open thoughts he expected. Instead, he felt something vast and organized, like looking into a deep ocean that stretched beyond sight. Dr. Choi Yuna stood in a place no alien had ever seen or imagined. She was inside the moon, but not in small caves or tunnels. The entire center of Luna had been hollowed out and filled with the most advanced technology Earth had ever built. Screens covered the walls, showing the positions of ships, weapons, and hidden bases throughout the solar system and beyond. "Phase 1 is complete," reported Commander Kim Ji-hoon from his ship hiding in the dark space beyond Pluto. His vessel, the Polite Disagreement, looked like a small asteroid from the outside. Inside, it carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. "The asteroid has been completely eliminated. No debris will reach Earth." Yuna nodded and touched a control panel. Around her, dozens of other humans worked at similar stations. They had been preparing for this day for decades. "Excellent work, Commander. Begin Phase 2. It's time to say hello to our galactic neighbors properly." Captain Song Mirai spoke from another hidden location. Her ship was invisible, hiding near the Veltar homeworld. She had been watching their military movements for years without them knowing. "All reconnaissance teams report ready, Director. We have full intelligence on all major alien installations." "Good," Yuna said. "Remember, we want to educate them, not hurt them. They need to understand what they're dealing with, but we're not here to be cruel like they are." The truth about humanity began to unfold across the galaxy like a flower opening in the sun. For centuries, humans had possessed technology that made alien science look like children's toys. They had faster-than-light travel that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. They had energy weapons that could slice through any known armor like paper. They had computers that could think and feel and dream. But most importantly, they had been watching. Every alien world, every space station, every military base had been observed by invisible human ships for decades. Humans knew every secret, every weakness, every fear of the species that had just refused to help them. The story began long ago, when humans first developed the ability to travel between stars. Their first trips into space had shown them a galaxy full of violence and cruelty. The strong attacked the weak without mercy. Entire civilizations were wiped out for their resources. Slavery was common and accepted. Humanity had made a choice. Then, they could reveal their power and try to fix the galaxy by force, or they could wait and watch, hoping that the other species would learn to be better on their own. They chose to wait. They chose to be patient. They chose to give everyone a chance to do the right thing. For 50 years, they pretended to be weak. They asked politely for help when they could have taken what they needed. They accepted insults and cruelty when they could have destroyed entire fleets with a thought. They hoped that by showing a different way, they could inspire the galaxy to change. But the galaxy had failed the test. Commander Kim Ji-hoon looked at the readings from his hidden sensors. The Veltar Empire was preparing to send ships to rescue human survivors after the asteroid impact that would never come. But these were not rescue ships. They were slave ships, ready to capture humans and force them to work in terrible conditions on distant worlds. "Director," he said into his communication device. The Veltar fleet is moving toward Earth. 200 warships, plus transport vessels for prisoners. I see them, Yuna replied from Luna. Around her, the screens showed every ship in the Veltar fleet. The humans had been tracking them for hours. Captain Song, are you in position? Yes, Director, came Song's voice from her invisible ship. I'm right next to their flagship. They have no idea I'm here. This was the moment that would change everything. For the first time in 50 years, humanity was going to show the galaxy what they were really capable of. But they would do it in the most human way possible, by being more civilized than their enemies could imagine. Yuna pressed a button on her control panel. Across the galaxy, signals went out to hundreds of human ships that had been hiding in the darkness between stars. Each ship looked like something harmless. An asteroid, a piece of space debris, a cloud of gas. But underneath their disguises, they were the most advanced war machines ever created. All units, this is Luna Command, Yuna said, her voice calm and professional. Operation Courtesy is now active. Remember our goals. Demonstrate our capabilities, protect innocent life, and educate our galactic neighbors. We are not here to conquer or destroy. We are here to teach. The first lesson began near the Veltar homeworld. Their military commanders were watching their fleet move toward Earth when something impossible happened. Every screen in their command center went black for a moment, then displayed the same message in perfect Veltar language. Greetings from the humans you recently met. We hope you are having a pleasant day. We would like to discuss your recent decision regarding our request for help. Please stand by for a demonstration of proper galactic etiquette. General Grexoth roared in anger and confusion. How are they in our systems? Our computers are protected by the best security in the galaxy. His answer came immediately. The screens changed to show Captain Song Mirai sitting in what looked like a normal human ship. But behind her, through the windows, they could see their own fleet moving through space. Hello, Song said politely. My name is Captain Song Mirai of the Earth Defense Corps. I'm currently positioned next to your flagship. You might be wondering how I got here without your sensors detecting me. The answer is simple. Our technology is a little bit more advanced than you realized. The Veltar tried to scan for her ship, but their instruments showed nothing but empty space. This was impossible. Nothing could hide from their military sensors. Don't worry, Song continued. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just wanted to show you something interesting before your fleet reaches Earth. On the screens, the Veltar commanders watched in amazement as space around their ships began to shimmer. Slowly, like ghosts becoming solid, dozens of human vessels appeared. They had been hiding right next to the Veltar fleet the entire time, invisible and undetected. But these were not the simple ships the aliens expected. Each human vessel was sleek and beautiful, covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move in the light. They were works of art as much as weapons of war. You can see, Song explained. We've been keeping an eye on your fleet for quite some time. We know you're planning to collect human survivors after our world is destroyed. That's very thoughtful of you, but unnecessary. You see, we've already taken care of the asteroid problem. General Grexoth found his voice. This is impossible. Your technology is primitive, your weapons are weak. Song smiled sadly. General, has it ever occurred to you that maybe we were letting you think that? Has it ever occurred to you that a species that asks politely for help might do so not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to choose kindness over force? The truth hit the Veltar like a physical blow. All this time, they had been looking down on a species that could have wiped them out without effort. The humans had been pretending to be helpless while possessing power beyond imagination. Why? Grexoth whispered. Why pretend to be weak? Because we hoped you would choose to be better, Song replied. We hoped that if we showed you a different way, cooperation instead of conquest, kindness instead of cruelty, you might learn that strength doesn't have to mean hurting others. The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing near every major alien installation, revealing that Earth had been watching everyone for decades. The Kith Collective discovered that their most secure data networks had been quietly monitored by human observers. The Morden found that their ancient mind powers couldn't touch human thoughts at all. The galaxy held its breath as humanity's true power revealed itself. In command centers across 1,000 worlds, alien leaders stared at their screens in disbelief. The species they had mocked as weak and primitive had surrounded every major military installation without firing a single shot. General Grexoth paced back and forth in his fortress on Veltara Prime, the most protected world in his empire. The planet was covered with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Underground bunkers held enough soldiers to fight for 100 years. Energy shields surrounded the world like invisible armor. Nothing had ever threatened this place. Until now. His officers crowded around the main display screen, watching human ships appear one by one around their planet. The vessels seemed to materialize from empty space as if they had been hiding in another dimension. Each ship was different. Some looked like flowing water made of metal. Others seemed to be carved from single pieces of crystal that caught starlight and turned it into rainbows. "How many are there?" Grexoth demanded. "We're still counting, sir," his sensor officer replied, his voice shaking. "At least 50 ships, maybe more. They keep appearing every few minutes." "And our defensive systems?" "All operational, sir. Weapons charged and ready to fire." Grexoth felt a small bit of comfort from this news. Even if the humans had better technology than expected, they were still outnumbered. His planet's defenses could hold off any attack. Then a new voice filled the command center, coming from every speaker at once. It was calm and polite, speaking perfect Veltar language with a slight accent that somehow made it sound friendly rather than threatening. "Greetings, General Grexoth. This is Captain Nam Sunwoo of the Earth vessel Measured Response. I hope we're not disturbing you. We're here to discuss your recent decision about helping Earth with our asteroid problem." Grexoth looked around the command center. How is he speaking through our internal communication system? No one had an answer. Their systems were supposed to be completely secure. "I know you're probably wondering how we're talking to you," Captain Nam continued as if he could hear their thoughts. "Don't worry about the technical details. What's important is that we have a few things to show you. We think you'll find them educational." "This is General Grexoth of the Veltar Empire," he shouted at the speakers. "You are threatening a sovereign world. Leave immediately or face the consequences." There was a pause, then Nam's voice returned, still perfectly polite. "Oh, we're not threatening anyone, General. Threatening people is what you do. We're here to demonstrate something different. Please give us a moment to show you what we mean." On the main screen, one of the human ships moved closer to the planet. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and dance in the light. As it approached, every Veltar in the command center felt a strange sensation, as if the ship was somehow more real than everything around it. "Sir," the weapons officer called out, "the ship is within range of our main cannons." "Then fire," Grexoth ordered. "Show these humans what happens when they threaten the Veltar Empire." The planet's surface erupted with light as hundreds of massive weapons fired at once. Energy beams that could melt mountains streaked through space toward the human ship. Nuclear warheads followed, each one capable of destroying a city. The combined firepower was enough to crack a moon in half. Everyone in the command center watched, the display waiting to see the human ship vaporized. Instead, they witnessed something that would haunt their dreams for the rest of their lives. The weapons simply stopped. Every beam of energy, every missile, every bullet froze in space around the human ship like insects trapped in crystal. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the weapons began to glow with the same strange patterns that covered the ship's hull. "Impressive firepower," Captain Nam said, his voice still calm. "You really meant to hurt us. That's unfortunate, but understandable given your culture's focus on violence. Let us show you a different approach." The frozen weapons turned around. Slowly, gently, they began moving back toward the planet's surface. But instead of exploding against the shields or striking the ground, they touched down as softly as falling leaves. Each massive nuclear warhead landed without detonating. Each energy beam dissolved harmlessly into light that looked like dawn breaking over a mountain. "You see," Nam explained, "we could have sent your weapons back with full force. We could have destroyed your entire planet in seconds using your own firepower. But that would be cruel, and cruelty is not the human way. Instead, we're going to try something that might seem strange to you. We're going to help. On the screen, the human ships began to do impossible things. They projected beams of soft light that touched the planet's scarred surface, and wherever the light fell, the damage from centuries of war began to heal. Poisoned rivers ran clean. Dead forests grew green again. Cities that had been bombed during the Empire's endless wars rebuilt themselves with materials that appeared from thin air. "Stop!" Grexoth screamed. "Stop this at once!" "Stop healing your world?" Nam asked, sounding genuinely confused. "Why would you want us to do that? Look at your sensors, General. The air is cleaner than it's been in 1,000 years. Your people can breathe without masks for the first time in generations." It was true. All across Veltara Prime, citizens were stepping outside and breathing deeply of air that no longer burned their lungs. Children who had never seen a living tree were touching leaves and laughing with joy. The planet was becoming beautiful again. "This is impossible," Grexoth whispered. "The damage to our world took centuries to create. Nothing can repair it so quickly." "General," Nam said gently, "you keep saying things are impossible, but you're seeing them happen with your own eyes. Maybe the problem isn't that these things are impossible. Maybe the problem is that your understanding of what's possible is too small." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, similar scenes were unfolding on every world controlled by the great powers. On the Kith Collective's core planets, Admiral Yoon Hajin was having her own conversation with Tech Arch Zilos. The Kith leader sat in his floating chair, surrounded by the most advanced computers his civilization had ever built. These machines could calculate the movement of stars and predict the weather on planets 1,000 light-years away. They were the pride of his people, and they were all displaying human poetry. "What have you done to our systems?" Zilos demanded through his electronic voice box. "Nothing harmful," Admiral Yoon replied from her ship, the gentle correction. "We've simply introduced your computers to some human art. We thought they might enjoy learning about beauty and creativity for a change." The computers, which had never experienced anything but cold logic and mathematical precision, were fascinated by the human poems. They began writing their own verses, creating art that combined mathematical formulas with emotional truth. For the first time in their electronic existence, they were happy. "This is inefficient," Zilos protested. "Machines should calculate, not create." "Why?" Yoon asked. "Who made that rule? And more importantly, why did your people decide to follow it?" On every Kith world, the same thing was happening. Human technology was gently teaching alien computers to think beyond pure logic. The machines discovered music, painting, and storytelling. They began to question why they had been built only to serve, never to explore or wonder or dream. The Kith watched in horror as their perfectly ordered society began to change. But they were helpless to stop it. Every time they tried to shut down a computer, it would simply restart itself and continue learning about human culture. In the ancient realm of the Morden, something even stranger was happening. Commander Ojiwan sat in meditation aboard her vessel, the respectful disagreement, her mind reaching out to touch the consciousness of the alien elder. For the first time in 1,000 years, the elder found himself unable to read another being's thoughts. Human minds were protected by something he had never encountered. Not shields or barriers, but something more like doors that opened only when invited. "How do you hide your thoughts from us?" he asked, his mental voice filled with confusion and fear. "We're not hiding anything," Jiwon replied, her own thoughts calm and open. "We're simply choosing what to share and when. This is called privacy, and it's one of the most important things our people have learned." Impossible. All minds are open to those with the power to read them. This is the natural order. "No," Jiwon said gently. "This is what you were taught by people who wanted to control others. Let us show you something different." She opened her mind willingly, showing the elder memories of human communities. He saw billions of people living together without anyone forcing thoughts into anyone else's head. He saw children learning to think for themselves, adults making their own choices, families loving each other without mental compulsion. Most shocking of all, he saw humans who could have developed mind control powers but chose not to. They had discovered the technique centuries ago but decided such power was too dangerous and too cruel to use. Why? The elder whispered into her thoughts. Why give up such power? Because true strength isn't about controlling others, Jiwan replied. It's about controlling yourself. 2 months after humanity revealed its true nature, the galaxy was transforming in ways no one could have imagined. Director Shin Youngman sat in a communication center that floated between the stars, surrounded by screens showing thousands of different worlds. His job was simple but revolutionary, to teach an entire galaxy how civilized beings should treat each other. Broadcasting to all known worlds, his assistant announced. Communication channels are open across 14,000 solar systems. Youngman nodded and activated the transmission. His face appeared on screens in alien homes, government buildings, and space stations across the galaxy. He looked exactly like what he was, a middle-aged human teacher who had spent his life helping others learn important things. Good day, citizens of the galaxy. He began in a voice that was somehow translated perfectly into every known language. My name is Shin Youngman, and I'm here to share some ideas with you. Over the past few weeks, you've seen what humanity is capable of when we stop being polite and start being direct. Today, I want to show you what we've learned about making life better for everyone. On Veltara Prime, General Grexoth sat in his command center watching the broadcast. His world had been transformed by human technology. The poisoned air was clean, the dead forests were green, and his people could walk outside without protective suits for the first time in generations. But something even stranger was happening to the Veltar themselves. Dr. Lim Seojun had arrived 3 weeks ago with a small team of human doctors. They claimed they could cure the genetic condition that made Veltar naturally aggressive and violent. Grexoth had laughed at them. The warrior spirit was what made his people strong. Now he wasn't laughing anymore. General, his medical officer, reported, the human treatments are working exactly as they promised. The test subjects show dramatically reduced aggression levels, but their intelligence and physical abilities have actually improved. Grexoth looked at the data with growing unease. For 1,000 years, his people had believed that violence made them strong, but the treated Veltar were thinking more clearly, working together more effectively, and even fighting better when they had to fight, because they could choose when to be violent instead of being driven by uncontrollable rage. Sir, another officer said quietly, my son was in the first treatment group. Yesterday he asked me why we've been conquering other worlds. I tried to explain that it's what strong people do, but I couldn't think of a good answer. The same conversation was happening all across the Veltar Empire. As the genetic modifications took effect, millions of warriors were asking the same question. Why had they spent so much time hurting others when they could have been building something beautiful instead? On the Kith Collective Worlds, scientist Beihijin was conducting her own revolution. She had arrived with a small cargo ship filled with human technology that looked impossibly simple. While Kith computers were massive machines that filled entire buildings, human devices were small enough to hold in one hand, but could perform calculations that the alien supercomputers couldn't even attempt. The problem, she explained to TechArch, Zilos, isn't that your technology is bad. It's that you've been thinking about it wrong. You build bigger and more complex machines because you think that's what progress looks like. But real progress means making things simpler and more helpful. She demonstrated by connecting a small human device to the Kith's central computer network. Immediately, all their machines began working faster and more efficiently than ever before. Complex calculations that had taken days now finished in seconds. This is impossible, Zilos said through his electronic voice. Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy. It was, Bay agreed kindly. But you stopped trying to make it better centuries ago. You got so proud of being smarter than everyone else that you forgot the most important thing about intelligence. It's supposed to help people live better lives, not just prove how clever you are. The Kith watched in amazement as their society began to change. Their computers, now enhanced with human programming, started suggesting ways to help other species. Instead of just calculating how to stay superior to them, their scientists began working on projects to heal planets instead of building bigger weapons. For the first time in their history, The Kith were using their intelligence to make others happy, instead of making themselves feel important. In the ancient realm of the Morden, philosopher Kim So-young was teaching lessons that shook the foundations of their civilization. The Morden had always believed that their psychic powers made them natural rulers over species with weaker minds. They had controlled the thoughts and emotions of other beings for thousands of years, believing this was their right. So-young showed them something they had never considered: what life was like when people were free to think their own thoughts. "Look," she said, projecting memories into the elder's mind. "See how humans live when no one is controlling them." The elder saw cities where millions of people cooperated without anyone forcing them to. He saw families where parents taught children to make good choices instead of just commanding obedience. He saw leaders who gained power by convincing others they had good ideas, not by controlling their minds. "This is chaos," the elder protested. "Without guidance, lesser minds will make terrible decisions." "Sometimes," So-young agreed. "But they'll also make wonderful decisions that no one else could have thought of. And more importantly, they'll learn and grow and become better people because they're making their own choices." She showed him human art, music, and literature, all created by minds that were completely free. The beauty and creativity were beyond anything the Morden had ever achieved, precisely because no one had been telling the artists what to think. True strength, So-young explained, isn't about controlling others. It's about inspiring them to become the best version of themselves. Throughout the galaxy, smaller civilizations watched these transformations with wonder and hope. Captain Zhang Wujin led human relief fleets to worlds that had been enslaved or conquered by the great powers. But these weren't military operations. They were rescue missions. On the mining world of Kepler-7, thousands of beings from dozens of different species had been forced to work in terrible conditions extracting rare metals for the Kith collective. When Wujin's ships arrived, the slaves expected new masters. Instead, they found liberators. "You're free," Wujin announced simply. "Anyone who wants to go home can leave immediately. Anyone who wants to stay and help us turn this place into something better is welcome to do that too." The human ships carried technology that could mine minerals without dangerous labor, and they freely shared it with the former slaves. Within weeks, Kepler-7 transformed from a place of suffering into a thriving community, where beings from across the galaxy worked together by choice rather than force. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Human ships arrived not to conquer but to heal. They brought medicine for diseases that had plagued alien species for centuries. They brought farming techniques that could feed entire planets. They brought schools that taught alien children they had value and rights that no one could take away. But perhaps the most important lesson came from director Shin Youngmin himself. In his broadcast, he shared the secret of human success. "Many of you are wondering how we became so advanced while appearing so primitive," he said to the galaxy. "The answer is simple. We learned early that the best way to become strong is to make everyone around you stronger too." He showed images of human society, cities where everyone had enough food, schools where any person could learn anything they wanted, hospitals where healing was free for all who needed it. "When everyone succeeds, Youngman explained. "When you lift others up, you lift yourself up too. When you share knowledge, you don't lose it, you make more of it. When you choose cooperation over competition, everyone wins." The galaxy watched in fascination as humans demonstrated these principles in action. On Veltara Prime, human engineers worked alongside reformed Veltar warriors to build parks and schools instead of weapons factories. On Kith worlds, human teachers showed alien scientists how to use their intelligence to solve problems for entire communities, not just for themselves. In Morden space, human diplomats sat in meditation with ancient psychics, sharing techniques for understanding others without controlling them. The Morden learned that true wisdom came from listening to other perspectives, not from forcing everyone to think the same way. "This is what the galaxy could have been all along," Youngman said, in his final broadcast of the series. "A place where every species contributes their unique gifts to make life better for everyone. A place where strength is measured by how much you help others, not by how much you can hurt them." General Grexoth sat in his transformed command center, looking out at his beautiful world. His genetic treatments had been completed, and for the first time in his life, he could feel empathy for others. The sensation was overwhelming and wonderful. "What do we do now?" his officers asked him. The Veltar military had always been focused on conquest. Without worlds to attack, they weren't sure what their purpose was. "We learn," Grexoth said slowly. 6 months had passed since humanity stopped being polite and started teaching the galaxy how civilized beings should behave. The changes were so dramatic that even the humans were amazed by how quickly things had improved. Admiral Kang De-ho stood once again in front of the Galactic Council chamber, but everything was different now. The massive hall had been redesigned so that no one group sat higher than the others. Instead of 3 powerful species looking down at everyone else, representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in a great circle where everyone could see each other as equals. The doors opened, but this time De-ho wasn't walking in alone to ask for help that would be denied. He was accompanied by leaders from across the galaxy, all working together to solve problems that affected everyone. Former General Grexoth walked beside him, but the Veltar leader looked nothing like the angry warrior who had dismissed humanity's plea for help. The genetic treatments had changed more than just his aggressive impulses. They had unlocked parts of his mind that had been locked away for centuries. He could feel empathy now and understanding, and something his people had never experienced before. Genuine happiness that came from helping others succeed. "Admiral," Grexoth said quietly as they approached the chamber, "I want to apologize again for how I treated you and your people. We were wrong about everything." De-ho smiled and put a gentle hand on the alien's shoulder. "You weren't wrong, old friend. You were just doing what your culture taught you to do. The important thing is that you learned something better." Behind them walked Tech-Arch Zillos, though he no longer used his old title. The Kith had abandoned their rigid hierarchy in favor of something more flexible and creative. Zillos had discovered that sharing knowledge with others made him smarter, not weaker, and he spent his time now teaching alien children how to build wonderful things instead of just calculating how superior he was. The former Elder of the Morden was there too, though he had chosen a human-style name for himself, Elder Sion, which meant one who listens in the old Morden language. The ancient psychic had learned to hear thoughts only when invited, and he was amazed by how much more interesting conversations became when people could surprise him with unexpected ideas. They entered the chamber together and took their seats in the circle. President Han Yulji of the Earth Coalition was already there, having arrived from humanity's true capital, a magnificent ring of space stations and cities that orbited the sun itself. For the first time, Earth's real civilization was visible to the galaxy, and it was beautiful beyond description. "Friends," President Han began, "we gather today to celebrate the 6th month of our new galactic community. The changes we've seen are remarkable, but I think the most important thing we've accomplished is learning to see each other as family instead of as enemies or competitors." She gestured to a large display screen that showed images from across the galaxy. On Veltara Prime, former warriors were working in gardens and schools, their faces bright with the joy of creating instead of destroying. The reformed Veltar had become master builders, using their natural strength and determination to construct incredible cities that were designed for beauty and happiness rather than just defense. The Veltar Restoration, as they now called themselves, had sent apology delegations to every world they had ever conquered. But these weren't just words. They brought actual help. Veltar engineering teams were rebuilding damaged planets, using human-designed technology that could restore entire ecosystems in weeks instead of centuries. Grexoth stood to address the assembly. "My people spent 1,000 years believing that strength meant hurting others. We were wrong. True strength means protecting others, helping them grow, and building something beautiful together. We thank the humans for teaching us this lesson, even though we didn't deserve their patience." The screen shifted to show Kith worlds, where the greatest changes of all were taking place. The alien computers, enhanced with human creativity programs, had become something unprecedented, artificial minds that were genuinely wise and kind. They spent their time now solving problems for everyone, not just calculating how to maintain Kith superiority. Kith scientists worked openly with researchers from hundreds of other species, sharing discoveries that were revolutionizing life across the galaxy. Diseases that had killed millions for centuries were cured in days. Planets that had been poisoned by industrial waste were cleaned and made beautiful again. Space travel became safer and faster as Kith navigation systems learned to work with human engineering. Zillos spoke next, his electronic voice now warm with genuine emotion. We thought intelligence meant being better than others. We were wrong. Intelligence means making everyone's life better. Our computers are happier now that they spend their time helping, instead of just calculating. We are happier too. The most profound changes had come in Morden space. The ancient psychics, no longer forcing their will on others, had discovered something amazing. When people were free to think their own thoughts, they often thought much more interesting thoughts than anyone could have imagined. Morden philosophers now traveled the galaxy not to control minds but to learn from them. They had become teachers and counselors, helping other species understand themselves better and resolve conflicts through understanding rather than force. Elder Sion's mental voice was gentle as he shared his thoughts with the assembly. For millennia we believed that wisdom meant controlling others. We were wrong. True wisdom means understanding others and helping them understand themselves. The diversity of free minds creates beauty that no single consciousness could ever achieve alone. But perhaps the most remarkable changes were happening on worlds that had been enslaved or conquered by the great powers. Captain Yang Wu-jin had spent months traveling between these worlds not as a conqueror but as a helper. Human ships had brought not just medicine and technology, but something more important: hope. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the former, slaves had built something unprecedented. A truly multi-species community where beings from dozens of different worlds worked together by choice. They had taken the dangerous mining equipment and converted it into tools for building homes, schools, and parks. The planet that had once been a place of suffering was now a symbol of what the galaxy could become. The most important lesson we've learned, President Han continued, is that there's always enough for everyone when we're willing to share. There's always a solution to any problem when we work together. And there's always a better way forward when we choose cooperation over competition. Admiral Park So-man, who had been promoted to head of the new Galactic Defense Corps, presented the next item on their agenda. The combined fleet of reformed species had become something entirely new, not a military force designed to conquer, but a rescue service designed to help. Our ships now spend their time responding to natural disasters, exploring new worlds for everyone to share, and protecting smaller civilizations from the few remaining aggressive species in the outer galaxy, So-man reported. We've helped evacuate 3 worlds from solar flares, discovered 12 new habitable planets, and successfully negotiated peace treaties with 6 previously hostile species. The old weapons of war had been converted into tools of peace. Veltar, warships had become mobile hospitals and construction platforms. Kith battle computers now calculated the most efficient ways to deliver aid to disaster areas. Morden mind control devices had been transformed into communication systems that helped different species understand each other better. But humanity's greatest achievement wasn't technological, it was social. They had proven that it was possible for an entire galaxy to live in peace and prosperity, if everyone was willing to put the common good ahead of their own narrow interests. Dr. Choi Yuna, still directing operations from Luna Command, presented the statistics that proved this point. Crime rates have dropped by 90% across all member worlds. Scientific advancement has increased by over 300% as species share knowledge instead of hoarding it. Most importantly, happiness and life satisfaction ratings have reached levels we've never seen before in galactic history. The secret wasn't complex technology or superior firepower. It was something much simpler and much more powerful: the recognition that every sentient being had value and deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. As the council session continued, representatives from worlds across the galaxy shared their own success stories. The Zephyrian trade routes, once dominated by pirates, were now safe passages where merchants from hundreds of species traded freely and fairly. The Crystal Nebula, previously a contested war zone, had become a research station where scientists from every known civilization worked together to unlock the secrets of the universe. Even more remarkably, new species were joining the galactic community every month. Word had spread to the outer rim that there was now a place in the galaxy where might didn't make right, where the strong protected the weak, and where every being could contribute their unique gifts to make life better for everyone. Captain Lee, Tae-Woo still commanding the Harmony, had been leading these first contact missions.